She knocked at exactly midnight. I opened the door, and the world stopped. I don't have words for that specific moment that are adequate. I have tried to find them for 5 years. I have turned that moment over in my mind so many times that the edges of it are worn smooth. And I still cannot fully describe what it is to open the door and find your wife standing on the other side of it. Not Sarah arriving home early. My name is Daniel. I am 36 years old. 5 years ago, my wife of 4 years knocked on my front door at midnight and destroyed everything I thought I knew. I am telling you this story now because I have spent 5 years trying to understand it, not just what Sarah did, but how two people who loved each other arrived at that specific Friday night, that specific door, that specific 30 seconds. Because the story doesn't start at midnight. It starts years before that. I need to tell you about Sarah before I tell you the rest. We met when we were 26. She was working at a marketing firm, sharp, composed, and slightly intimidating. She was funny in a dry way. She remembered small things that make a person feel genuinely seen. I fell for her quickly. We dated for 2 years. Married when we were 28. 4 years of marriage that I thought I understood completely. The thing about secrets is that they change the shape of everything around them without you knowing. Every conversation I replayed, every moment that felt slightly off, every time Sarah was quiet in a way that felt like more. I thought I was imagining things. I just didn't know what I was actually sensing. Sarah had been doing this for years. Professionally, consistently, she had started again 8 months into our marriage, doing it quietly in the background of everything. While I was building a life, she was living a second one. I am going to tell you the actual version. It was a Friday, late, maybe 11 p.m. Sarah had been away for 10 days visiting her mother out of state. I'm going to be honest because dishonesty would make everything feel like it happened to someone else because I was weak. My friend Danny had been in my ear for days. Just call. One time. Nobody knows. Sarah's not here. Danny had a number saved. Said it was clean, safe, discreet. I told him no 3 times. Then I told him yes. I called the number at 11:23 p.m. A woman answered. Her voice was different on the phone. Lower, practiced. I sat on the edge of my bed and told myself it meant nothing. That Sarah would never know. I was wrong. She knocked at exactly midnight. I opened the door, and the world stopped. Sarah, in a wig, in clothes I had never seen, with makeup applied in a way she never wore it at home, looking at me with an expression that I will see for the rest of my life. She already knew. She had known the moment I called the number. Because the number was hers, the silence in the hallway was louder than any scream. I stood there, rooted to the spot, watching the woman I thought I knew. Sarah stood on the doorstep, the night air clinging to her. For a moment, time seemed to stop, suspended between the truth and the lie. I looked for a trace of surprise in her expression, some sign of guilt or fear. But her eyes were steady, calm, and hauntingly prepared. She had expected this confrontation. Perhaps she had even craved it. Not a single muscle in her face betrayed the chaos unfolding in my heart. I took a slow, involuntary step back, as if the physical distance could protect me from the reality standing right in front of me. Sarah walked past me into our home. Her clothes, loud and revealing, were a jarring contrast to the quiet, domestic life we had built here. She sat on the couch with a familiarity that felt like a mockery. Then, she reached up, her fingers disappearing into the dark, synthetic hair. In slow motion, the wig came away. Her natural hair fell into place, and for a fleeting second, the Sarah I knew returned to me. But the wig didn't disappear. It lay there on the cushion, a tangled, dark reminder of the stranger who had just walked through my door. It was a jarring collision of two worlds. The woman who made my breakfast and the woman who lived this shadow life were one. I stood frozen. My brain refused to process the image. The ticking of the wall clock felt like a hammer hitting a nail over and over. Flashes of her calm face and the synthetic hair danced behind my eyes. I searched for a lie to believe, but there was only truth. Finally, my voice returned, though it sounded hollow and strange. I looked at her and asked the only thing that mattered, how long? She didn't flinch. She looked directly at me, her face a mask of honesty that hurt more than any deception ever could. Before we met, she said. The words were quiet, but they carried the weight of a decade of secrets, shattering everything I thought I knew. In my mind, I saw the foundation of our house silently sinking into the dark earth. Our entire history was built on hollow ground. The collapse wasn't loud. It was a slow, agonizing descent into a reality where every memory we shared felt like a beautiful, curated performance. We sat there for hours. The lamplight flickered as the night wore on, casting long, distorted shadows that stretched across the floor. A coffee mug sat untouched on a table, the steam long gone. The warmth had left the room, leaving only the cold weight of confession. She explained her temporary return to that life. Her face was a landscape of exhaustion, but there was a flicker of relief in her eyes. I turned to the window as the first hints of dawn touched the horizon. Why, I asked. Because I was tired, she whispered behind me. The sun began to rise, indifferent to the wreckage in our living room. The future of us hung in the quiet, uncertain morning air. The morning didn't bring the clarity I hoped for. Instead, it brought a cold, gray silence that seemed to have settled into the very foundation of our home. Sarah was already awake, or perhaps she never slept. She looked small on that couch, huddled under a blanket, as if trying to shield herself from the wreckage of last night. I went through the motions of a life I no longer recognized. My inbox filled with urgent requests, but they felt like echoes from another dimension. Even the simplest tasks, like eating, felt performative. A half-eaten sandwich sat before me, a testament to an appetite that had vanished the moment the secret surfaced. Dinner was a rehearsal of indifference. We sat at the same table, shared the same air, yet the distance between us was an unbridgeable chasm. Every memory I held dear was being rewritten in real time. I looked at our wedding photo, once a symbol of hope, now just a frame for a lie I didn't see coming. I couldn't stop thinking about the version of her I never knew. The dark wig, the provocative clothes, pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit the woman I married. At 3 a.m., the darkness is loudest. I lay there listening to the clock, wondering which parts of our history were real and which were just carefully constructed scenes. I called Danny. I needed to hear a voice that wasn't hers or mine or the one screaming inside my head. I needed someone to tell me it wasn't all my fault. But Danny didn't offer comfort. He spoke with a heavy regret that only made the truth harder to swallow. He knew more than he'd let on for far too long. As the words poured out of the receiver, the realization hit me. This wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about my own weakness. The way I'd looked away when the cracks first started to show. November came with a biting chill. The rental van sat parked outside like a tombstone for our marriage. It was time for the final act of this tragedy. The apartment felt cavernous without our things. The echoes of our laughter and our arguments were being packed away into cardboard boxes, labeled and sealed. She reached out one last time. It wasn't a hug of passion or reconciliation. It was the hug of two exhausted survivors of a shipwreck, acknowledging the end. I watched her walk away. Every step she took toward that van was another line of our story being erased. I stood in the doorway, a ghost in an empty house. The van pulled away, taking the last of what we were with it. I closed the door on the wreckage, finally alone with the silence I once feared. 5 years? It's funny how a length of time sounds so substantial until you're standing at the very end of it, looking back. I look at this room, at this life, and I wonder when the silence became the loudest thing I own. It's heavy, isn't it? I don't recognize the man in the glass anymore. He looks older, more weathered, carrying weights that were never meant to be carried alone. Loneliness doesn't always mean being by yourself. Sometimes it's the quiet of a hallway that used to echo with shared laughter and soft whispers. An unmade bed, a kitchen table with a single chair. These are the artifacts of the life that drifted away while I wasn't looking. We were like two ships, navigating the same vast ocean. At first, the distance was barely noticeable, just a few degrees of separation. But over 5 years, those few degrees became an abyss. A gap too wide to bridge with just words, especially the ones left unsaid. It started with the secrets. Small things at first. A text ignored. A truth slightly bent to avoid a moment of discomfort. I thought I was protecting her. Or maybe I was just protecting myself. Either way, the glow of that screen became my only confidant. I saw Sarah drifting into the shadows. She was right there, but she felt like a ghost haunting the corners of our home. Her silence was a mirror to my own. We were two people living under the same roof, speaking different languages of neglect. You can build a life on a lie. For a while, it even looks beautiful. Small flowers can grow in the fissures of a cracked foundation. But the weight of time is relentless. Eventually, the cracks spread and the flowers wither. You can't sustain a home on hollow ground. One moment of honesty could have saved us. Just one spark to light up the darkness we had cultivated so carefully. But I held onto that spark until it burned my fingers, and then I simply let it go. The darkness returned, heavier than before. There's no such thing as a contained mistake. Every hidden truth is a stone dropped into a dark pool, creating ripples that never stop. They touch everything: the way you look at her, the way you sleep, the way you breathe. The ripple effect is the true cost of a secret. I stand here now, looking out at a world that moved on without me. The lights are just a blur of bokeh, distant and unreachable. I remember her smile, not the tired one from the end, but the gentle, honest one from the beginning. It haunts me. But memories fade into white light if you don't anchor them in truth. She's gone, and the what-ifs are all I have left. The morning sun is breaking through the clouds. It's a new day, but the weight of 5 years doesn't just vanish with the dawn. I have to keep walking. I have to find a way to be honest with myself, even if there's no one left to hear it. Don't wait as long as I did. Don't let the drift become an ocean. Address it today, while the door is still a door.